Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this past week was really exciting. Of course, it was filled with all of the iPhone 12 news, the 12 mini, the iPhone 12, 12 Pro, and 12 Pro Max, and also the HomePod mini. But also, Apple decided to release two updates. Now, one, it looks like it may have been a mistake, or maybe it wasn't, but Apple released iOS 14.1 GM. That's Golden Master, or what that means is the final version that will come out to the public later on. They normally wait to release these, and then they'll let us know when the final one comes out. But right now, they released it. I don't know if it was a mistake or not. They pulled it and then put it back out. So it's kind of interesting. They also released iOS 14.2 Beta 3. And so I've been running iOS 14.2 Beta 3 on my iPhone 11 Pro Max. I have 14.1 GM on my iPhone 11, or my iPhone 11 Pro rather, and also my 2020 12.9-inch iPad Pro. And so I want to talk about my overall experience, talk about your experience based off the YouTube community poll. So the first thing is, though, 4K YouTube seems to be back, and it seems to be back on all versions. That includes iOS 14.0.1 and the betas and the GM as well. And so if you go to one of my videos here, I always upload in 4K, you'll see 2160p is an option. You may even have 2160p HDR or 60 frames per second. So you can play all of those, even on the iPhone XR, and it will just scale the image to the display to fit based on the size of your display. So it's great that it's there. YouTube seems to have switched it back on, so it's great to see that. Now let's first talk about iOS 14.1. So 14.1 GM can be installed if you're a developer and you have a computer, a Mac or Windows computer, and you install it manually by using your Lightning cable. That's the only way to install that particular version. And so when they actually are going to push it out, we'll talk about a little bit later, but this version seems to be pretty good. And based off the YouTube community poll, only 2 people said that they had battery drain issues. And they're still having issues with 14.0.1 before that. Some say it's worse, but Apple already issued a fix saying that if you're having major battery problems, you need to wipe the phone and start over again and then install your backup. So it's not a great fix. I was hoping 14.1 would fix that. So it's possible there could be another build, but based off this build number, it's kind of strange. So if we go into the About section of our settings, you can see the build number is 18A8395, and normally I don't bring this up in follow-up videos, but there's an extra digit on the end. Normally there would be a letter at the end to let us know that it's still a beta, but this one doesn't have that letter, so it makes me think that maybe it's a new naming scheme, or there could be another version on top of this, another GM. They have done that in the past when they found bugs. It's unlikely, but it's possible. Now, I've been running that same version, 14.1, on my iPad with iPadOS 14.1, and it's actually running just fine. My 12.9-inch iPad Pro, it's super fast. I haven't had any lockups. I've had no weird bugs with widgets other than the Apple News being offline, but that's actually Apple News being offline. I don't use it. And then also, other than that, YouTube plays fine. My keyboard connections work fine. When I'm using a keyboard, the mouse and everything seems to be working okay for me. That issue was there before in the betas, so it seems to be fixed. Everything seems to be working really solid and steady on the iPad, so I really don't have any issues with the iPad itself. Now, as far as iOS 14.2 Beta 3, well, there's a few things to talk about with that. I've been running it on my 11 Pro Max, like I said, and this particular version seems to be mostly stable. In fact, I've had almost zero issues with it. And I say almost because I have had a couple Bluetooth issues with my car, for example. My car uses Bluetooth to let the phone know it's nearby. It acts as the key and will unlock. Sometimes it just loses connection. And a few of you commented in the community poll saying that you had similar issues with third-party Bluetooth accessories. So headphones just randomly dropping, but AirPods and those sort of Apple accessories seem to work okay. So something's up with Bluetooth. Hopefully it's fixed in later betas. It could just be part of a bug with this particular beta, but quite a few people have mentioned that as well. Also, some people are saying that the camera will just go to a blank screen or a black screen when you open the camera app. I haven't seen this myself, but someone reported it. And then also people are saying widgets are acting strange again. So my widget you can see here, my weather widget's okay, and there's nothing really odd about it, but some people are saying it's flashing for them, so it's causing a problem. A few people are saying that there's still lag, but for me, performance has been pretty solid, but depending on the phone you have, there could be lag. And in general, most people say that battery life is solid on beta 3. Not everybody, but most people seem to say it's pretty good. And so for me, performance seems to be pretty good. Like I showed just a second ago, it's very fast and fluid. I've had no issues going into settings. Everything's just nice and smooth. And since it's later out, let's flip on dark mode. Normally it changes by itself. I have it set up automatically to switch, but in general, it's pretty fast and fluid. The one area I've been having, I think, a few issues with this beta is battery life. So if I go into battery life, we'll take a look at it, and my battery health is down a little bit more to 93%. After a year, 90% is about normal for most people. Some will have a little better, some will have much worse, just depending on how you use it. But 93% after a year, 80% after 2 years is normal, according to Apple. So you'll see, here's my battery usage. This was yesterday, 3 hours and 17 minutes of screen on time, 2 hours and 54 minutes of screen off time with over 50% usage. If I go to the day before, only a couple hours use. The day before that, almost 4 hours of use, but only 75% of my battery, or I should say 75% of my battery was used. So I'm not getting the 10 to 12 hours I used to get. Now, some people are telling me they're getting that battery life no problem. So it could be some of the apps I'm using. It's really hard to say exactly what it is, but it may be my home and lock screen, and I've been in notes a lot, as you can see. So maybe there's some things with that, but there's definitely something using my battery in this particular beta. Not everyone is having this experience. In fact, most people say it has really good battery. Now on my iPad with iOS 14.1 GM, battery life has been okay for me on this version. In fact, I don't find that I'm charging the iPad very often at all. So if I go into my battery here, we'll wait for it to load. And over the last 10 days, I don't plug this in every day, but you'll see an hour and 20 minutes a day, the next day 3 hours. So I did charge it on Thursday. So yesterday I charged it to 100%, and then I've used it about 4.5 to 5 hours since, and we're at 62% battery life. So it's actually doing pretty well. I get the 10 hours out of it, no problem, that you would expect, unless you're doing heavy video editing or something like that. But watching YouTube, I'll get 9 hours, no problem with that. So it seems to be doing pretty well. Now with iOS 14.1, I think the release to the public is probably going to be this coming week. And the reason I say that is, well, if you haven't been following Apple at all, Apple released the iPhone. So because of that, I would expect it to release before Friday when the iPhones release, along with the new iPad Air. So we've got two iPhone 12s coming out, the 12 and 12 Pro. The 12 mini and the 12 Pro Max will be a little bit later, but I would think we'll see 14.1 with the release of this particular version. That's usually what Apple does every year. They'll release it around the time of the iPhone, and then when they release another product, they'll release an update, a major update. So I would expect it around Tuesday or Wednesday. It's possible they could wait to Friday, but I really don't think they're going to do that. So hopefully we'll have it earlier in the week, and of course I'll let you know as soon as I know. Now as far as iOS 14.2 betas, well, beta 4 could be on a weekly cycle at this point, and again, we would see that this week. If it's not, and they push that to beta 5 on a bi-weekly cycle, then of course it would be the following week. So it's possible we'll see 2 releases this week. It just depends on whether or not Apple decides to push a beta out as well. Of course, I'll keep you updated as soon as I know, but I think we're going to be on a weekly cycle. Usually around the 4th or 5th beta is when they do that on major releases. So hopefully we'll see that. And then a final release of iOS 14.2. Now, I would expect a final release probably in November, early November, somewhere around that, because we're going to see the Apple Silicon Mac event. So we should see another event with the new Apple Silicon-based MacBooks or iMacs or whatever they decide to release. Of course, we'll have more information as soon as we get closer to that time, but it looks like we're going to have another event. So a lot of updates are being rolled out, and that goes along with macOS Big Sur. A lot of people have asked me, when are we going to see that? And I think, again, around that same time frame when those new Macs release. So sometime in November, I think, for that one. Now let's take a look at the YouTube community poll. Now, at the time of this recording, you can see there's 8,500 votes, or 8.5K votes. So thank you very much to everyone that voted and commented. You can see 18% said that it was great, and they're talking both about iOS 14.2 Beta 3 and iOS 14.1 GM. So it does combine both of these a little bit. Only 3% are saying terrible. Most people are on the beta, though. 6% are saying okay, but some bugs and issues. 66% are still on the public version, which is always a good idea. Just hang on that version until the next public comes out. And then 6% are on iOS 13 still, or potentially earlier versions. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Thomas Baker said, on iPad Pro 12.9 2018 and the cursor does not work like it used to when you hover over an item. Otherwise it's okay, 14.2 beta 3. When I had cursor issues when I had my iPad on the beta, I did a reboot and that seems to fix it. So I would suggest doing that. It usually fixes that issue. And Dorestu Mendez says, iOS 14.2 beta 3 have been really solid on my iPhone 11. I feel that battery life is better than iOS 14.0.1. Macklin says, folders don't want to open, bad connectivity, iOS 14.2 beta 3 on 11 Pro Max. Dr. Penguin says, definitely seeing an improvement with battery life, beta 3, iPhone 11. Xiaolong Zheng says, iPadOS beta 3 broke my mouse pointer. Now I just got an oversized circle that can't change shape and sometimes don't even auto hide itself. Again, there's issues with the cursor with beta 3 for some, and if you are having those issues, just do a reboot of the iPad. It usually fixes it. Commander Neon says, holding off on iOS 14.1 on my SE 2nd gen and waiting for reviews on the official launch. Rebecca says, iOS 14.2 beta 3, iPhone 11 Pro Max. I've had a few issues with my screen freezing or responding slow. I apologize if I don't pronounce this correctly, but I think this is Ian Aldrich. Managed to get iOS 14.1 on my 11 Pro Max, and it fixed a lot of bugs I had with iOS 14.0.1. Improved battery life, smoothness, and widget support seems to be improved. I'm on iOS 14.2 beta 3 on iPhone 11 Pro, and it's working great. Srinivas says, iOS 14.1 has great battery life. 10s Max came from terrible battery life on iOS 14.0.1. Ed O'Sullivan says, iPhone 11 Pro 14.1 GM running nicely so far. Nothing to complain about. Andre says, iOS 14.2 beta 3 is so fast, snappy, and smooth. And then finally, Wintermute782 says, 14.1 GM, 11 Pro Max, no issues. And so that's it with iOS 14.1 GM. Expect it this coming week, like I said. If Apple changes that, I would be very surprised. And then also 14.2 beta 4, possibly we could see this week or next. But let me know what you think about that in the comments below, and if you've found any new features, I'd love to hear from you in the comments as well. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.